There's something oxymoronic, or at the very least ironic, about a rare RAV4, but that's exactly what you're looking at here. Because if you've been following along since this plug-in hybrid version came out a few short years ago, you'll know demand has been high and supply has been tight, which means you might have a hard time getting your hands on one. So is it worth the wait? I'm still inclined to say yes, although I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's probably not worth it for all of you out there. For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that. Hey, you looking for a great place to work? Then why not come work with me at AutoTrader? That is right, it is a great place to work, and it's not just me saying that. Take a look, great place to work certified 2 years in a row. So look us up where all those job postings are. See what's out there, lots of cool roles opening up. Anyways, now that HR got what it wants, I'm gonna give you what you want, and that's the deets on this RAV4. And I do wanna get into something that's kind of significant because earlier this year, the federal government expanded the IZEV rebate, the zero emission vehicle rebate. Used to cap out at $2,500 on a plug-in hybrid. Well, now it gets the full $5,000 if it's got more than 50 kilometers of electric range, which is the case with this RAV4 Prime. So it qualifies for the full $5,000 rebate on a purchase or 4-year lease, which is significant, but this thing is still very expensive, especially compared to the conventional version. And that's not the case with the Ford Escape hybrid versus plug-in hybrid or the Hyundai Tucson. The Tucson's actually a really good example of that because it's a $4,600 premium to get the plug-in hybrid powertrain. So that federal rebate covers the whole thing and then some, whereas this, it's still very expensive. This XSE with the tech pack that I'm driving, it's about $59,500 before tax. And a comparable version with just the regular hybrid powertrain, it's about 47 grand. So even with the full incentive applied, this is still $7,500 more. So if you skip the tech pack, you're looking at about $54,500 before tax for the XSE trim, so $49,500 with the rebate applied. And then it's about 48 grand for the SE trim. That is the base version of the plug-in hybrid. So $43,000 with the incentive applied. All of those are still more expensive than their conventional hybrid counterparts. It's quite a bit of money. That's what I run into, at least one of the problems I have with this plug-in hybrid. It is a big premium. Yes, you are getting dedicated electric driving range, but that's a lot of money. Now, the biggest thing you are getting with this plug-in hybrid powertrain is the 68 kilometers of dedicated electric range that Toyota claims. That might not seem like much, but if you put any stock into those studies about average commute times in Canada, you'll know it can cover that without a problem. And if it can't cover your commute, well, the good thing is it's got that ultra efficient gas electric powertrain that's just as efficient as the conventional hybrid, and that's not always the case. If you guys remember, I reviewed the Kia Sorento plug-in hybrid not too long ago. Great vehicle, but one big problem I had with it, once the battery was drained, wasn't all that efficient, especially not compared to the conventional hybrid. And that's why I said if you're looking at that thing and you're not plugging it in regularly, you may as well get the regular hybrid instead. The same applies here, but for different reasons. The big one being the slow charging times. Now, every RAV4 Prime in Canada comes with the onboard 6.6 kilowatt charger. In the US, there's a 3.3 kilowatt and the 6.6 is optional, but we get the higher capacity charger. But even then, it takes quite a bit of time to juice this thing up on a level 2 charger. I plugged it in the other day. It was about 3.5 hours to charge this 18.1 kilowatt hour battery pack. But if you take a look at the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid, it takes a little less than 2 hours to charge, and that is a big deal because it means you can charge it up at a public charging station when you're doing the groceries or going out to the mall, anything like that, going to a movie. Well, over 3 hours, you're not going to want to sit there and wait. And if you don't have access to charging at home, that is where you're going to run into your biggest issue. If you're anything like me and you live in the city and your building doesn't have charging, guess what? You're out of luck. And that's the case not just for building dwellers, but if you only have on-street parking, there's no way for you to charge at home. It's just not possible. It's not a matter of you not installing a level 2 charger. It's that you physically can't. And that means you can't take advantage of this thing the way it was designed to be driven. I really do have to say that does disappoint me, because this thing is so ideally suited for city life, for people like me. Maybe you've only got room for one vehicle in your household. This thing's got great dimensions, both the space inside and for navigating city streets, tight parking lots, all of that kind of stuff. But then having that electric range, that means you can do most things around the city without burning a drop of gas. But then you have the gas electric hybrid powertrain. That means no range anxiety when you go to take that road trip. It is so perfect for city life in so many ways, but there's just that one big problem with those long charging times. Something the RAV4 has been great at for a long time is giving you more room than its footprint might suggest. And not much has changed with this plug-in hybrid version. Just take a look. Tons of space. I'd even go as far as saying the spec sheet, not quite correct, because with this panoramic sunroof, there is a ton of headroom, and that's not something I could say with the regular sunroof up front. Second row, tons of space, battery pack under the back seat, but you can see there's still lots of room. Doors, they open fairly wide, so it shouldn't be too hard to help a kid in and out of a child seat. And something else I love is that the doors drop all the way to the bottoms of the rockers, which mean you aren't going to get road grime on your pant legs getting in and out. Technically, there's a little bit less cargo room here than you get in the regular gas version or the conventional hybrid. There's 950 liters, so 100 less, but that is not a discernible difference. Honestly, even when you park them side by side, you're not really going to notice where that space went. It's really nice to see how well used this footprint is. Okay, so I mentioned that battery pack, and again, it's an 18.1 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. And if you take a look at the conventional hybrid, it's only like a 1.6 kilowatt hour battery pack. So it is significantly larger, but the cool thing is it's in that same spot under the back seats, and it does not cut into room at all. And then I talked about charging times earlier. I talked about that onboard charger, but about that range. Now, like I said, officially this thing is good for 68 kilometers of range, but I've seen it up in the mid 70s both times I have drained that battery this week. That has been awesome. No, it's not a big jump over the official numbers, but it's always nice to get that little bit more out of it. And it's not hard to do either. The other cool thing is lots of different ways to use this powertrain to its full potential. Now, something that bothers me, the default is to use the battery first. And I know a lot of you out there are going to say, Dan, who cares? You know who cares? Me. And I'll tell you why, because let's say you live out of town. You want to use up the gas and electric engines together because it's a little bit more efficient. Electricity, it's not so great out on the highway. It burns at a quicker rate, whereas around town, not so much, and you can use the regenerative braking. So in order to do that, you have to hit this charge hold button to save the battery energy for later, and there's no way to set that as your default mode. Now, aside from the bigger battery, virtually everything else is the same as the conventional hybrid. So it's got a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder gas engine that makes 177 horsepower and 165 pound-feet of torque, but that is paired with twin motor generators under the hood. One of them, well, that powers the wheels, and the other one puts energy in the battery. It's pretty novel. And then there's a separate electric motor in the back that drives the rear wheels. It's actually separate from the rest of the powertrain. So it chips in on demand when you need more traction. Also, when you're in reverse, this thing runs on nothing but electrons, which is pretty cool. Now, net system output, apparently it's 302 horsepower, which is significant in a crossover this size, but honestly, it's a little overblown, and so is talking about this thing as what, the quickest Toyota this side of the Supra. I think that was the thing when it came out, and I'm gonna tell you, anyone in my position who reminds you of that, all they're doing is keeping PR people employed, because it's kind of useless. Here's the thing, I do not want to offend you RAV4 Prime owners out there, but bragging that this thing is the quickest Toyota this side of the Supra, It's a bit like saying that your toothpaste, well, you bought it because it's the mintiest. Sure, it might be true, but it's not really the point. That's not why you're buying this thing. It's not why you're buying that toothpaste. It's to keep your teeth clean. You're buying this because you want something efficient. Well, I don't care how quick it is. Also, when you get on the gas, it doesn't sound so good. Very similar to the conventional hybrid. A big reason why is the continuously variable automatic transmission. They drone a lot. You guys know that. I like Hyundai and Kia's take using a conventional 6-speed automatic instead of a continuously variable one. It's not so great, so you're much better off staying out of that gas engine as much as possible to take advantage of how refined this powertrain is otherwise. Now, I already talked earlier about the trims, but let's get into some of the details because technically this thing only comes in 2 trims, the SE or the XSE, but there's also that tech pack that sits at the top, and it really does make this a 3 trim lineup because it changes the RAV4 Prime significantly. Now, the SE comes with some decent stuff. First of all, a full advanced safety suite. That is awesome. It's got adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. It's got it all. I do have to say though, Toyota's lane keep assist system, well, it's got what's called lane tracing, but I find it a little intrusive when you're driving. It really does want to fight you a little bit to do what it wants to do instead of let you do its thing. But the cool thing is you can turn that lane tracing off and still have conventional lane keeping as well. So that is nice, and I like that it's standard. So is blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. Now, you also get heated front seats, as well as an 8-inch touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto. It's not spectacular, but a decent selection of stuff. And then when you step up to the XSE, you get stuff like heated rear seats, as well as a bigger touchscreen. It's 9 inches instead of 8. And then that tech pack adds all kinds of good stuff. A kick sensor for the power tailgate that comes with the XSE trim, as well as ventilated front seats. You get this massive panoramic sunroof, an 11-speaker stereo, lots of good stuff. Some upgraded safety stuff too, like a head-up display, as well as rear cross-traffic braking. So if you're backing out of your driveway and there's somebody coming along behind you, well, it'll stop you from backing out into that traffic. That is very cool. But like I said, it does make this thing very expensive, and that is a consideration to make because it's got it all, but it's also a lot of money. 55 grand or so before tax for this range topping trim. You're getting into full electric vehicle money there, and it's just hard for me to justify in my mind, at least without that charging at home. Now, something else you get with this tech pack that's pretty cool is this camera-based rear view mirror. And that means if you've got the back loaded up with stuff, we can just flip this little button here and it gives you a live look at what's behind the vehicle. And it's really high definition, which brings me to one of my very few complaints about this vehicle in general, and that is the terrible quality of the cameras. Even with this tech pack and its surround view monitoring system, hilariously low resolution, quite disappointing, but otherwise most things in here are great. Touchscreen, a little slow in its response, but everything's simple and easy to understand. It's fairly comfortable, quiet, easy to drive. No, it's not sporty or fun, but I don't think that's the point of this thing. Overall, it's just very easy to get along with, very easy to drive, and it's easy enough to maximize that electric range when you can hook it up to a charger. To recap, I like that the RAV4 Prime has plenty of electric range, is nice and spacious, and that it comes with a ton of safety features. I don't like how long it takes to charge, and that it's pretty expensive even after government rebates, or how low res the cameras are. Objectively speaking, the RAV4 Prime makes a ton of sense for a ton of people. If you're wary of full-fledged electrification, there's really no reason not to get a starter kit like this one that gives you the best of both worlds. Enough electric range to get around town, but gas-electric operation that's super efficient when you need to go further. The only issues I see, aside from how hard it is to get your hands on one, are how expensive it is compared to the non-plug-in version and the long charging times. If those aren't issues for you, then do yourself a favor and get your name down on the wait list now. But if it's a little out of your budget or you don't have access to charging at home, the regular hybrid version does most of the same stuff and for quite a bit less money.